What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Recover Out Loud, episode number 74. Today, we got an awesome guest all the way from Prince George, British Columbia, Canada, our northern neighbors. We got Reese Sabatini-Blake. How you doing, Reese? Oh, I think we got some connection issues. Can you hear me?
I can now, but I feel like I lost you there
Okay.
for a minute.
Yeah, I don't know. One of us has issues. It doesn't matter. Fuck it. It doesn't matter. Anyways, like I said, how you doing today, Reese? Oh boy. Oh boy. Uh-oh.
I am doing great. How about yourself?
You go ahead. Go ahead. I got shitty weather here, so that could be interfering in everything. Could be on me.
Well, I can't really complain. It's a beautiful day. It's a little cooler than yesterday. It's partly cloudy.
Nice. Nice. That's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's raining today, and it rained really heavy earlier, so could be the interference with all that that's giving us this delay. So I'm gonna take the L on this one. Okay.
Honestly, it happens. It's the day and age of the internet. I I had one
Yeah.
last week where even though we have three separate channels, I swear none of them were working on my end.
Oh no. Whoa, that's wild. That is wild. All right. Anyways, Reese, would you like to give us a formal introduction of yourself?
Well, I am Reese Sabatini-Blake, originally of Prince George, BC. I currently live in Calgary, Alberta. By training, I am an Indigenous medicine woman specialized in rehab physiology, trauma recovery psychology, and chronic pain management. I also have a best-selling novel and a new release covering the first 3 years of my paralysis recovery, and the new one being a feminist manifesto that talks about everything else that's happened in my life so far.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And first, I want to say thank you for being a part of the show. And I want to thank you for being vulnerable enough to talk about some of these things that aren't so aren't such a hot topic for us. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm happy to share these experiences. Like, hopefully, we can shed some light to a viewer that connects with it and feels inspired to clean up their life.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's go ahead. Let's dive into a little bit. What was it like in your active addiction?
For me, active addiction was really just trying to run from everything that hurt on the inside. And to the point where, like, in my teens, I started drinking. It very actively progressed as trauma occurred. And by the time I was in college, I would drink from the time I got up to the time I went to bed. I throughout my classes, like before work, I was drinking all the time. I knew that I had no control in it. Like it was consuming. I
Yeah.
I was already trying to get sober by the time I was 19, but I didn't effectively do so until I was 20 when I got sober, like completely sober for a couple years before I started following more of a harm reduction model in learning how to integrate alcohol safely into my life, if ever there was a way. And for me, I clearly dealt with the trauma because now I can safely have one or two and still be out for 6 hours later and not need another one.
Yeah.
It's no, tonight the limit is one. Okay, that's it. Tonight it's two. It's if you actually get past your addiction, you know how to live, and you don't have to just become in constant fear of breaking an entire abstinence.
Yeah.
And I know many people will disagree with me on that, but the getting past it instead of just hiding from it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it. So you were talking about you felt like you were running away and hiding from some of the things that hurt. Uh, you don't have to answer if you don't want to. Feel free to if you do. What were some of those things that were traumatic for you that you were running from?
For me, well, I followed the classic narrative of a kid that had been sexually abused as a child, that ended up in sex work as a teenager. I also had a very close childhood friend that I consider a sister get murdered the year that I truly slipped into addiction,
Mm.
as well as it was also the year that I was paralyzed as a teenager. That everything really was a complete landslide.
That's rough. I'm really sorry that you went through all that.
Well, I mean, it was unfortunate, but it helped me become both like the person and the service provider that I am today.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, so leading into you said you went to college and you know you were drinking and then you started getting sober at the age of 20. What was that like for you? What programs did you go through?
For me, well, one day, I actually, after I wrote and published my first book, I started to have like these nightmares where it was very clear to this is the path I was heading down, and I knew that I needed to stop. And as dangerous as it was, I cold turkeyed. Like I completely stopped for the first while, and oh, that was bad. I still remember those withdrawals for the first 2 weeks,
Yeah,
and that was
I can
almost six
imagine.
years ago.
I can imagine those. I couldn't quit cold turkey. More power to you.
I was a little tweaker. It was bad.
Yeah, I can understand that. So, you go through the withdrawals and all that stuff. What happens on the back end after you quit cold turkey and you published your book? What did that look like for you?
Honestly, I pit fell. Like it, even though I had got sober, there was this new level to what I was considering rock bottom, because I was actively feeling all the emotions, like the despair, the hopelessness, the depression, the angst, the anger, like the sorrow, all of it, like that I had been hiding away from for years was now coming up. And because I spent those years, instead of dealing with it in actively drinking, I had no idea how to unpack that very large mountain on my back. And it was really the slow process of learning how to unpack that that
Yeah.
led to the freedom from the substance.
Oh yeah, I can completely relate to that. I wouldn't say I would say like it took me a long time to fully be able to understand like why I felt the way that I felt after I got sober. And even then, like I wasn't taking any medication to help ease any of that. I was like, I need to feel these feelings because I ran away from them for so long.
Right. Well, in feeling it, you go through it instead of around it, which
Yeah,
I get to walk people through every day now in my job, and that's kind of the best part. It's like, yeah,
yeah,
I truly understand how absolutely terrible life can be. I've been there.
Yeah,
Let's get past it.
yeah, absolutely. I think we all get stuck in the semantics of like what happened, and instead of like how to move past it and walk through pretty much hell. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, we all have our own levels of hell. Some of us have been there a few times, some of us never make it out.
Yep, yep. And as bad as it gets, we there's
And
fire trucks.
it's in through actually getting out.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's fire trucks right outside my window. What the hell? Anyways, moving on. So you start working on trying to figure out those feelings and those emotions and working around them. What was the biggest emotion that you felt that was the hardest to get through for you?
The anger.
Yeah.
Oh, I was such an angry teenager after everything that had happened that, by the time I actually let myself process that, like, it may have been the outer coating, but it felt like the only thing inside me was truly anger.
Yeah. How did that manifest? Like, because I know it manifests different for everybody.
For me, I probably directly channeled it into what was like suicidal depression. Just
Mm,
just being so angry at not even the situations or the people around me, but myself for
yeah,
experiencing any of it.
yeah,
Like that level of anger to just existing
yeah,
and
yeah,
still being here at that time in my life was probably the hardest part of it all.
yeah,
It's okay. How do I get past the anger to actually want to be here anymore?
yeah. Yeah. I know for me, my anger manifested in like in hatred and rage, and like I had to come to that point and realize that like the anger wasn't what I was feeling. There was so many other things that I was feeling, but the anger was just a level of that onion that I was peeling back, and really I learned that I ran to anger for all my negative emotions, all of them. If I was sad, I was angry,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just a byproduct of like what I learned when I was in the army, and shitty to say, but it's true.
Yeah, just tuck it away into something that you can fuel into your own performance or productivity. Like, oh
Absolutely.
yeah, anger can be fantastic if you're using it in a productive manner, but if not, it's one of the most toxic things we experience.
Yeah. And one of the most dangerous things that we can experience.
Mhm.
Yeah. So you start working past the anger and start redirecting it. What is it that you learned in that time frame, that transition from getting sober to start living this new lifestyle that you have, where things are different?
I really needed an outlet, and for that, I got back in shape, and I also started like working with music again, like actively playing guitar and relearning how to play, so that when I sit down and I can't express the emotion, I find it. Because with music, you can always find the key that matches the feeling.
Absolutely. I would agree 100%. I play guitar every once in a while. I used to play a lot more actively than I do now, but I agree wholeheartedly with you. What's your favorite song to play?
And not even a whole song, but the one that can always just bring me back immediately is the intro to Enter Sandman.
Good one. Good choice. It's a good choice. Um, So I'm just gonna go on a limb and assume that music has been a big part of your life. What what songs do you listen to kind of motivate you and bring you back center?
For me, I'm huge in hip hop and R&B. Like make me dance. Cuz if I'm dancing and I'm just vibing, I don't care. Like
Yeah,
nothing else really matters if movement is involved and all those endorphins are flowing again, because at that point, like everything matters just a little bit less.
absolutely, absolutely. So, all right. So let's talk about some of these programs that you're in and that you're running. Tell us a little bit about those.
Well, I mostly work with people in both either mental or physical health that have struggled to find any means of an actual recovery in Western medicine, that are looking for more traditional solutions to truly change their life. And most people, when they come to me, like they're in a very dark place. Right? Their health or their mental health is in a spot where they're kind of on their last leg.
Yeah,
And at this stage, I would really like to start meeting people before they're on their last leg, although I am great at dealing with people in crisis.
yeah,
It's tough. And it's always tough. It was even more tough when I was still in like more social work lines of work and working with high risk teenagers
yeah.
who were kind of always suicidal whenever something went wrong, because teenagers don't yet know how to manage emotions.
Very true.
But working with them actually helped me hone some of like my best skills to actually working with people in crisis even as adults, because I know the mindset, I know exactly where I was, where they were. It's okay. Here's how you're feeling, but let's work through this. Let's realize that all of those things can be fixed. None of it's permanent, and we can start working on this today.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
I gotta
whether
met.
I'm working with
Go ahead.
on in a group setting or one on one, like it doesn't matter. I don't care how many modalities I have to try with someone before their mental or their physical is better.
Yeah, yeah. I can imagine that, it's pretty heavy work when you step into those realms and you're doing that, and you kind of step away from that. How do you handle the stress and the anxiety that comes on because of that?
Honestly, I work out daily, and music and art and cooking. Like
Mm,
in some way I always manage to get creative, because like we as practitioners, like we have to be able to hold space but not take it on.
yeah,
And we would all be lying if we said that we never took it on. Like
yeah,
I can take on anyone's pain. I can hold space for it for the next 10 years if you want. I'll just tuck it away in the void in my heart.
yeah. I like the way you put it, the void in my heart.
Um, but it's learning how to. It's empty real estate. It's available.
Right? No, I completely understand though. Like I did a lot of peer work in Alaska, and I got to this point where it was just overbearing, because I was taking people's shit on. I was just like, hey man, I know the way that you feel, so I'm gonna go home and just gonna process the way that you feel, and that's not fucking fair.
Right? And finding whatever way to release it, like to get it out of you. Like some people prefer to write. Like others are happy to just sing about it or, phone a friend and bitch about it for 10 minutes. But
Yeah.
whatever it does for you that releases that is what you need to do. Like, no matter what anyone else says, as long as it's not causing anyone harm, you're good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, getting into the a little bit more lighthearted side of your job, what is the biggest benefit to you when while you're doing this work, when it comes to clients or to your interaction with other coworkers?
Honestly, it's helping them become lighter and like truly work through everything so that they can go and actually live the life that they're here for instead of being stuck in their pain, their suffering, their illness, like whatever. Like I truly just exist to help other people. I have realized and I enjoy it, but I realize it really is that simple. Like, oh, you're having issues? Oh, you think that I'm the one to help you? Okay, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You feel called to work with me? Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. I've realized that a lot of people have the answer to all their problems. They just need somebody to listen to them so that they can get to the answer.
It exactly, like even when doing like low level like non-trauma counseling stuff, we're not there to give you the answers. It's you finding them within yourself. I'm just there to facilitate and guide a conversation and like mindfully suggest like modalities or techniques or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's actually all the things we know within ourselves already, and that's why in therapy you have these aha moments that are actually life changing because you already knew, you just needed to remember.
Yeah. See, you say aha moments, I say aha moments.
Right. Like,
There's a lot of people don't understand that concept, the aha moment. That it's just that moment where a light bulb flips on.
well, maybe they haven't had one yet. It's not their fault.
Yeah. Oh, I know. They'll get there. Hey, we're all on this different in the same book, just on different chapters.
That exactly, like some of us are already on book 3, someone is starting in chapter 1. Like,
Yeah,
we all figure it out.
absolutely.
Nobody has their shit together.
Nobody does. Nobody does. But
Nobody has all the answers.
right, right. So let's talk about your book. That how many books do you got out now? One, two,
Two.
two. Awesome. Let's talk about them. What are they about?
Well, the first one covers the first 3 years of my paralysis recovery, kind of like a month by month take of what I did, what was working, like my experiences as a person going through that, and really like giving people an eye opening look to what life looks like when you go from competing and very athletic athlete to vegetable overnight.
Mm, that's got to be
And
rough.
book 2 is the semi lighthearted feminist manifesto to everything else. Like I talk about everything, not just paralysis recovery, but I talk about gender and sexuality. I talk about all the assaults. I talk about like having a sexually abusive um, I guess he wasn't a stepdad. He was my mom's boyfriend at the time. Um, and all of that, like I really break down the this is what's wrong with the world, but also here's how we can do just our little pieces to make it just that much better.
Yeah.
I've had other medical professionals and doctors read it, and they just keep saying, wow, the way that you told this is exactly what the world needs right now.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get graphic about anything, but I talked around it in a way where book one is more of a story, and book two, even though it's only authored by me, looks more like a critical thinking anthology in the way that I wrote it.
Hmm. Gotcha. I think, I'm working on my book, but we're not here to talk about my book. um, I think that the world needs to hear voices from people who've been through it, and read the words because it's easier for us to talk like this, but it's so much more impactful when we put it down, pen and paper, type it out, whatever, and we share those, because we can actually sit and think about it and process it and give it that time and that attention that it deserves, in order for things to get pushed out the way that we want them to. Because I'm pretty sure if you went to somebody and you say, "Hey, help me write this," it would have turned out a little bit differently than you would wanted it to.
Oh, very much so. Like,
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate that I have the guts to tell my story myself, because writing the first one was very painful because I was also still in addiction. But writing this one has been immensely healing. Like, I reprocessed things that I didn't even know still hurt a little bit. And the way that I had to look at it all even changed the way that I wrote it, like through some of the chapters. Wrote half of the chapter one day, and the next day I'm like, well, actually, that no. I'm still telling this story, but in that chapter I'm changing how I'm telling this story, because no one needs to feel that level of pain and anguish there.
Yeah, I can understand. I started writing my book, and I completely just I deleted it. I deleted all of it, and one of my friends was like, "Why'd you delete it?" And I said, "Because it sounds like victim statements, and I'm not a victim."
Mhm.
And they were like, "Wait, what?" And I said, "Yeah." They were like, "Dude, you're like two chapters in." I was like, "Yes, but they were all victim statements, and I'm not a victim." And that's not what I want my story to be about. I want my story to be about triumph and about victory and about lessons learned, and how hard life can fucking be, but like at the end of the day, it does get better if you work on it.
Exactly. Like, life is one of those things where you only get out of it what you put into it. You want to put no effort into your life? Enjoy being a potato on your mom's couch for the next 40 years.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So before we jump off here,
You
I
want
want
to
to
push
ask.
yourself to the
Go ahead.
point of burnout to achieve some goals? You're going to get there.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
Like, if
Before
you want
we,
to push yourself to the point of burnout, like, you'll get there.
yeah, yeah. Sorry, we have a bit of a lag. I think it's my, yeah, technology. Stupid. Technology sucks sometimes, but but anyways, before we jump off here, um, I would like to ask, what is one big piece of advice that you would give to somebody that's struggling in their active addiction or mental health crisis, to help them to the next step in their life?
Really, like, lean in on your community. Like, you're not alone, even if you feel that you are. Talk to someone, and instead of using next time, sit with the feeling for an hour. Like, you can stop running, and I know that it hurts, but the actually feeling whatever it is that you experience that still has you captured in its own prison, like, is the way out.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would agree 100%. And what piece of advice would you give somebody that wants to start their book, right? Like whether it's literal or figuratively, what advice would you give them?
I lost you at start the book.
Oh, sorry, sorry. Uh, Technology. Anyways, what advice would you give to somebody that literally or figuratively would like to start their book?
I would say draft it out, like, or not draft it, outline it. Like, figure out what you actually want to talk about, figure out the way you want to portray the information, and start putting aside even half an hour a day to just writing it out bit by bit to tell it in as much or as little detail as you want to.
Absolutely.
Because there's room in the literary world for every story that has not yet been told.
I like that. I like that. That's pretty awesome. But anyways, where can we find you, Reese? Not like literally, but where on the interweb can we find you?
You can find me on um, all forms of social media, either by my name or on there's my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Reese Sabatini-Blake. If you throw it in the search bar, my business page will come up, or as well as my own website, which has links to publications of Sabatiniblakewellness.ca/publications.
Sweet. Sweet. Well, I want to thank you, regardless of this technological interference that we've been having. And thank you for sharing your experience with me and with us. I do greatly appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Sean.
And everybody, I want to take a moment and say thank you for listening in. And I'm sorry for the interruption. I'm pretty sure that's on my end. It's raining here. It's storming. It's crazy. You guys heard everything in the background. It's madness. Uh, Unpredictable. So, anyways, once again, I want to thank Reese for being a willing participant in this, and everybody else for sitting and hanging out with us. So, till next time, much love, y'all. Be good.